You think the dead killers coming back to life. That's so stupid and would never happen. We have now reached our final story in the trilogy, the Project Shutdown. I think you can guess what happens in this. Instead of the usual, these are the characters, this is what they have to do, they have to try not die beginning, we open with a man inside a facility. We don't know who, we don't know where. All we know is that he is hiding, and everyone with him is dead. He hears footsteps coming towards him before a figure emerges behind him. We don't know what figure, we don't know who, and the man tries to get away before something slams into his head, killing him. Even though we aren't given all the names of the characters first off like usually, I'll just do it for you now to make it easier. We have Kyoko, Tom, Elena, Evelyn, Julia, Tom, no, not Tom, Ryder, Adrian, Molly, Nora, Grant, and Toby. We open with Ryder and Adrian, who, like someone, are very clearly friends of some sort. Seems a bit familiar if I do say so myself. We learn during their interaction that Ryder is terrible at playing keyboard, and that the two are not prioritizing finding a clue, but are instead prioritizing finding weapons, which is honestly the smart thing to do because the clues are more for the killers who have to find their weapons rather than the innocents. So, good on them for having brain cells. That's really mean, I'm sorry. Toby is sitting alone in one of the classrooms when Nora comes up to him. Toby is completely alone. He's basically the Marcus and Lucy. They don't want to be involved with anyone's shit. They want to be left alone. They want to sulk. They want to eat and sometimes find clues, sometimes just eat, which I can't really blame them. Grant comes in with Nora because he's lazy, and Toby's like, I'm not dealing with two of you, so I'm just gonna leave. And yeah, he just walks out of the classroom and leaves them. Grant and Nora have definitely formed some alliance. They are looking for clues, and they're not very paranoid. They are pretty okay with each other for now. We return to Kyoko, Tom, and Julia in the computing room, who actually are following Marcus's. You cannot. Jesus, I'm sorry. Wait. We return to Tom, Kyoko, and Julia, who are in the computer room and actually following up on Marcus's lead from the previous story, because he found a map with white and red X's. Remember, so they're trying to find that map. Unfortunately, every single computer has the term unreachable device. But what they do find is a glass cube, telling them whatever will kill can be traced back to where tears have spilled. Molly, our last new character, is walking through the classrooms, trying to find a clue, obviously, and they walk in on Elena and Evelyn have a conversation, who just awkwardly turn to her like, we never understand what their conversation was about, but Molly obviously gets the hint and leaves the room, where she runs into Grant and Nora, and the three of them become an alliance. If only it was that easy making friends in a life or death scenario. The trio walk around until they reach a window that's overlooking the playground and a small pond in the garden, when they hear footsteps and a commotion above them. Before they can investigate this, however, something flies out in the window in front of them and lands in the pond. The body of Toby. At least Marcus and Lucy actually survive for a decent amount of time. At the pond/Toby's body, all the characters meet up, and Kyoko, Tom, and Julia explain their clue, whatever will kill can be traced back to where tears have spilled, or more how they don't understand. And unlike last time, where Tom and Kyoko were very hesitant on telling people they survived a previous trial, they're pretty open to it this time and tell them basically off the bat, like, yeah, we have done this before, we survived in a trial. Grant starts having doubts about them surviving another trial, which leads to a kind of understandable crash out from Evelyn. We're also not questioning if they're lying or not, or if they're killers. Everyone does kind of agree with them reluctantly, but much better than, Samantha. Also, like last time, they decide after this that they're going to do what they did before, the interrogations. Unlike before, where Kyoko and Tom kept their information to themselves about what everyone else was doing, they pretty much just tell everyone, like, oh yeah, this person was doing this person was doing that. When she tells them Adrian and Ryder were looking for weapons in the sports hall, like baseball bats and, the tennis rackets, which are very, very useful and definitely are used, Grant gets very defensive because, they're searching for weapons. Do you know who else is searching for weapons? The killer. And he gets very defensive and assumes they're the killer. But after this, the group splits up again. Kyoko, Tom, and Julia participate in some gardening and go digging in the fields because where tears have been spilled, probably the final fight in the last story. But they find nothing. And Tom starts thinking more closely about the clue. Where have we seen someone crying where someone was killed? Tom, when Jason tried to kill him. They go up to the room where he was killed, which, creates great memories for Tom. And they find a code, 0102. We cut to Adrian and Ryder, who are talking in one of the classrooms, when Grant basically barges in and sees Ryder holding a baseball bat, and then immediately starts suspecting them, and is like, yeah, so you guys are the killers, aren't you? Molly and Ruby come in and basically tell him maybe don't immediately antagonize people, stop being you're very paranoid and overreacting, maybe dial it down a bit. And instead of being like, you know what, you're right, maybe I should just lay them off, Grant realizes, I can't trust anybody, and then breaks the alliance with Nora and Molly to go off on his own. Evelyn and Elena look around in the library when, near one of the shelves, they find a book, quite literally nailed down to the wood. So they have to find a screwdriver, obviously, to unscrew it. And once they do, they take the book off the wood to find a safe. Are we getting deja vu? They meet up with Kyoko, Tom, and Julia, who, found a code, probably to the safe, and they unlock it, revealing a gun and throwing knives. Kyoko and Tom rush to the nearby classroom away from the others because they've basically come to the same conclusion. Either A, the GDC is really lazy with their weapons and just reuse them, or B, Jason or Jill are somehow back in the killers. You would think this is far-fetched, but do you remember the lore dump at the beginning of part 1? Maybe it's not so crazy. However, the conversation is cut by a scream downstairs. Grant. Everyone goes downstairs to the source of the screaming when Grant runs back up to them. And he doesn't look so good. He's bloody, he's bruised, he's very, for once, his paranoia didn't pay off. He wasn't paranoid, and guess what? He got his ass handed to him. He tells them he was attacked by something, but doesn't know who. Or what. No, I'm just kidding, who. All he knows is whoever it was didn't have a weapon, so they just beat the shit out of him. And whoever did it near the suspicious black door. Grant apologizes to Adrian and Ryder because, he was wrong. They did not do anything, actually. He was just being himself. But that raises a question, who was it? Because all our characters have alibis. So Kyoko and Tom tell them, yeah, so if none of us did it, and we were all with someone, then it's probably Jason and Jill. Obviously, you think the killers from the dead killers coming back to life. That's so stupid and would never happen. And yeah, they are kind of jumping to conclusions, but to be fair, they do kind of have some evidence for it with the throwing knives and the gun. But they think, since it was near the suspicious black door, maybe there's something near it that can help. So minus Grant and Rudy, because he can't really go anywhere, so Nora volunteers to stay behind and help him, like getting first aid and helping him. The rest of the group decides to go near the suspicious black door that's locked. Oh wait, it's open. The group goes down a large corridor that's very dark without light, so definitely not a horror movie setting. And they open into a large room. Inside is a bunch of scientific equipment, futuristic cameras, and technology and stuff, and a few dead bodies. Yeah. Staying in small groups, they decide to explore the facility, where they also find the dead guy from the beginning who got hit in the head, but we don't really care about him. It was just these people are dead. But yeah, everyone is dead. But that isn't important. What is important is what's behind another mysterious door, with a bunch of blue light coming from inside. Molly finds it and opens it. Inside is a bunch of computers, lab equipment, large set of iron doors with a control panel to the side of the room, and more importantly, lining the wall, cryogenic chambers, all of them shattered. Looking closer, Kyoko can see on each one of them is a label, X1, X2, X3, X4, Ring a bell? And all of them are empty, except for X3's chamber, which has the disfigured body of Jake. Once again, what I told you at the beginning, they take the dead killers, they experiment on them, try to bring them back to life. Mostly fails, but they get lucky like once a month. The group decides to try and find something on the computers, but all of them are locked, except for one, which has a video log. Do you know who is the logger? Laura Wellstein, who was the person doing the logs at the end of each epilogue. They basically find out the lore I told you at the beginning, like blah blah blah, the world is under attack, we're bringing dead kids back to life, who cares? The one thing we do learn about is artificial relationships. So yeah, remember when I told you Jason and Tom were friends, and Adrian and Ryder? Yeah, that's a lie, they're not friends. Basically, the GDC managed to fake a relationship between them to try and make them think that they were close, when in actual reality, like everyone else, they've never met. But they feel like they have a personal attachment to them. This essentially flips what Tom thought of everything on his head, because he was attached to someone who didn't care for him and was also a sadist. If anything, Jason exploited, this artificial relationship, adding to the list of reasons why I hate him. So I can't say I blame him for wanting to end this. The group follows him back outside the facility because perfect timing. As soon as they exit that door, they hear the screaming of Grant and Nora coming from where they left them in the cafeteria. They return back to the cafeteria, finding Grant on the ground again, and Nora fighting something. Something that looks a bit too familiar. The one and only ass Jason. Except he looks a lot more messed up. He has pale skin, yellow veins, yellow eyes. Basically, imagine the scene from Arcane where Jinx is getting pumped with shimmer, but instead of purple, it's yellow. That's the best visual indicator I can give you into how he looks. He does not look okay. A small detail as well, we see Jason has a little tube connected on the side of his face around his neck, which is definitely insignificant, definitely does not pop up later in the story. But maybe do you remember that, just for the fun of it? Tom does not hesitate when he sees Jason. He grabs the gun, reloads it, and shoots him in the head. And Jason goes down like that. He's dead. For now, before he then gets back up and continues fighting Nora. Naturally, Tom shoots him again, and he falls back on the ground. And then he gets up again. He will not die. Nora decides, screw this, I'm getting out of here, I can't fight him. When someone from the side, wielding an axe, swings it towards her, and it goes into her neck, killing her. The axe wielder reveals themselves to the group. She lives, and I really wish she didn't. The only real difference between her and Jason is that she doesn't have the tube, but she still looks just as messed up as him. So now the group has two evil sadist killers to deal with that will not die. Yeah, the best image I can find for this scene, the group basically just decides to fight them still. So Kyoko tries to think, and she comes up with the idea that maybe there's something in the facility that they can use to kill them or end this. Molly volunteers to go, and Grant joins her because he can't really fight. He still looks, not good. But since he's indirectly kind of responsible for Nora's death, he wants to help. He wants to kill them. Everyone else decides, like the last trial, to take this outside. But obviously having two of these killers fighting in the same location is not a good idea. So Kyoko and Tom decide to fight Jason still inside, whilst everyone else heads outside to fight Samantha. Outside in the playground, they all beat the out of each other. The highlight, unfortunately, is the death of Adrian, who dies saving Ryder. And during this fight, Elena gets her arm smashed in with the axe. And this time is definitely broken. It's not working like an arm usually should work. So yeah, she's screwed. She cannot fight. For the rest of the fight, Evelyn stays by Elena's side, and Ryder and Julia fight Samantha on their own. Upstairs, Tom and Kyoko are fighting Jason. Basically, Tom just continuously shoots him, but every goddamn time, he gets back up, until Tom runs out of bullets. During the fight, Kyoko grabs a fire extinguisher and slams it into Jason's head. And when she does, she accidentally hits the tube, the insignificant tube, and once it does, he starts choking, like he can't breathe, like the tube provides air. It wasn't insignificant. I lied. It's his weakness. So the two decide to aim for the tube, but Jason like kind of catches on and he goes on the offensive even more. He manages to take one of the throwing knives and uses it against Kyoko, managing to like slash her up pretty bad, but Tom keeps trying to defend her. With Jason still holding the throwing knife, Tom grabs the fire extinguisher, and at the same time, the two charge at each other. Tom smashing the tube with the fire extinguisher. And unable to breathe, Jason finally goes down. He's dead again! I hate Jason and Samantha so much. I don't care if I wrote this. I've been praying for their deaths for so long. Everyone celebrates. The witch is dead. Well, one of them. Kyoko is obviously relieved and proud of Tom. He can finally get over like his guilt of Jason and killing him and everything in the trial. He can move on and they can escape together. When she sees the knife lodged in Tom's heart. In the last act, as they were charging each other, Jason used the knife to stab Tom before he died. So they essentially killed each other. He falls onto the ground as Kyoko leans over him, and Tom quickly tells her to get out and save the others, and telling her thank you because she's the reason he's been going on for so long, before dying in her arms. And Kyoko cries over his dead body. This is definitely the most evil thing I've ever written. R.I.P. Tom, you deserve so much better, but it was for the plot, I'm sorry. In the facility, Grant and Molly are trying to find a way to end this. And with the iron doors and control panel, they try and find a code. Which they do, actually. 26718. It doesn't work. There's no way to unlock it. So instead, they redirect their attention to the giant red button that says shut down. Oh my god, it's the title. Molly pushes it and it stays true to its word. As soon as she does, all the lights go out, the iron doors open, and we cut back to the fight with Julia and Ryder. And we see, do you remember the invisible barrier that I told you about in the last story? The one that unfortunately got Allison killed? Yeah, we see it crumble apart and fall onto the floor. I don't know how you would see if it's invisible, but it's supposed to look like, it turns uninvisible and it basically just looks like glass. But yeah, it crumbles down to the ground. So now there's nothing basically stopping them from getting out. There's nothing beyond the fence, apart from there's a giant forest over the fence, but I think we can get through that. Molly and Grant open the iron doors, which are now unlocked, which leads to a large helipad. And near the helipad is a monitor that's still working, and it's a map of the school and the forest. And approaching them is a red dot titled Property of GDC. Interesting. Molly and Grant head to the exit doors where they meet up with Kyoko and without Tom, so they kind of come to the conclusion. R.I.P. Tom. But, on a positive, the exit doors are open. They go back into the playground, finding Adrian, dead unfortunately, and Elena and Evelyn together, kind of unable to fight. Actually, no, Evelyn can fight, she just don't want to, I guess. Elena's too important. Still fighting Samantha, Julia tells Ryder to go back to join with the others and she'll be with her in a sec because, understandably, she still wants to beat the shit out of Samantha while she can. I respect it. Unfortunately, as soon as Ryder leaves, Julia gets stabbed in the leg. She can still move, just, she has to hop. She has to hop everywhere. Finding out Julia's still fighting, Kyoko runs away from the group to go join her, where she sees her basically on the ground, trying to get up as Samantha is approaching her, still with throwing knives in her hand. Julia tells her to go as Kyoko runs up to her, when Kyoko sees Samantha throwing a knife at Julia, landing directly into her skull. And just like that, Julia's dead as well. Kyoko's closest friends stabbed in front of her in the span of 10 minutes. Unfortunately, before she can beat Samantha's ass, she is dragged away by the group who decide to kind of cut their losses and they're just going to escape. They're going to get out through the exit doors. Unfortunately, Samantha's behind them in this entire ordeal, but they do make it to the exit doors and they reach the plaza, which is also surrounded by the fence. And blocking off their escape out of the plaza into the woods is an iron door with a keypad. This place is not original, they love keypads and iron doors. Whilst the group figures it out, Kyoko runs away from them to Samantha and goes full Ellie Williams, beating the shit out of her. She is angry, she wants revenge, yelling at her, "It's your fault they're all dead, you did everything," which is implied she's obviously talking about the GDC, but Samantha is really the only source that she can get this frustration out. Grant and Molly, with their big brains, figure out 26718, the code before, is the code for these doors, so thankfully they manage to unlock the doors. Evelyn pulls Kyoko off of Samantha whilst they're fighting and drags her to the doors so they can get out. Grant tries to shut the door on Samantha, but unfortunately she makes it towards them into the woods and fights him specifically, knocking him out. The rest of the group tries to fight Samantha, but it's literally a never-ending battle. I swear they stab her in the head once and she's still walking. So whatever the GDC is doing to these kids, it's working. It's then that Kyoko pauses and realizes that she hears something rumbling in the distance coming towards them. A helicopter. That was the red dot on the map saying property of GDC. So that's what it was. It does land in the forest, but a ways away from them, and they can't really get there while Samantha is always behind them. So Kyoko thinks of another plan, and this one isn't as fun as the other one. She tells Elena and Evelyn to get the others towards the helicopter, and she is going to lure Samantha out deeper into the woods away from them. Obviously they protest, telling her not to, but Kyoko, she is not taking no for an answer. She wants revenge, but she also wants to adhere to Tom's last words and telling them to get out. So she'll let them escape at the cost of her own life. Realizing they don't have a choice, Elena and Evelyn hug her and tell them goodbye, as Kyoko antagonizes Samantha and manages to lure her away from the group because she basically just rage baits her until she wants to kill her. Elena, Evelyn, Ryder, and Molly carry the unconscious Grant towards the sound of the helicopter, where they see the helicopter has landed in a small field in the forest. Inside the helicopter and around it is a bunch of people wearing black gear and holding guns. The people quickly usher in the five inside the helicopter, telling them to hurry up because the Mindlers are almost here. Remember them? Snail Eyes. Kyoko lures Samantha deep into the woods until she can basically no longer hear the sounds of the helicopter. Unfortunately, she can't run forever, so she decides, I'm going out in a bang. My weapon is a stick. Which, I mean, you know what? Samantha don't have anything, so at least she has something. So they get into their final confrontation. Unfortunately, once again, Samantha's basically superhuman, and Kyoko does lose the fight. She pushes Kyoko onto the ground and gets on top of her, wrapping her hands around her neck. Kyoko finally hears the helicopter again as it's departing, and realizes that her friends made it out. Her last words are, I kept my promise, to Tom, as her eyes close. R.I.P. the goat, Kyoko. Samantha cannot celebrate for long. We give her 2 seconds. I don't want Samantha to be happy at all, because guess what comes charging out of the woods? A Mindler. See, they did come in handy. It jumps on top of her and savagely attacks her, ripping her. I don't know what it does, but it's not pretty. And whatever it does to her, it kills her. The witches are dead, thank God. The group in the helicopter take off, leaving that goddamn school. Evelyn asks one of the people in the black where they're going, and they respond, the settlement, far away from the GDC. That's all we get as the five fly away. After this, we get another bloody epilogue, this time from a different scientist, because Laura Wellstern is not with us anymore. Explaining that the rogue organization, we don't know what, has taken their helicopter, so property of GDC, no, it's property from another organization that is assumedly opposed to them, essentially the right arm in Maze Runner. They're the anti-wicked. And due to the disastrous trial, they are abandoning Site B and focusing on Site A. So Site A is still fine and kicking. Spoilers, Site A doesn't last long either. After the log, we're given a time skip of a few weeks where we catch up with Elena, Evelyn, Ryder, Molly, and Grant, who are sitting in front of a makeshift graveyard in a field, where we see Evelyn putting down the final grave, marked Kyoko. All the gravestones are dedicated to someone that has died in the trials. Obviously, none of the survivors were in the first trial, so it's just titled, to those in the first trial, you won't be forgotten, even though they kind of were forgotten. The story ends with them sitting in silence at this graveyard, happy that they're alive and that they've survived the events of the trial. And that was the murder mystery trilogy I wrote, the project trials, and the project shutdown. Is it quality writing? No. Would it ever get published by a credible publisher? No. Did I have fun making it? Yes. I may do another video style like this because I have written a lot of stories and I actually do have an idea for another one that's probably a lot more coherent than this series. And don't worry, it's not teenagers stuck in a school where they have to survive a killer. They're still stuck. It's still teenagers stuck someplace, just not in a school. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed, or at least gotten some entertainment. So have a good day or night, and I'll see you. Stay safe. And Jason and Samantha.